Hi everyone, my name's Frank Summers and I would like to do a few Harmony tutorials. I know there's a lot of people out there who are maybe new to Harmony 12, which came out this past summer, and I also know that there are a lot of people out there who are transitioning from Flash, and maybe they're struggling a little bit with some of the nuances that is Harmony. For my part, I switched to Harmony about 3 years ago, and while I can definitely feel your pain, once I came to grips with the software, there's no going back. It really has a lot of options and a very powerful tool set at your disposal, and sometimes that can all be a little bit bewildering because there's too much stuff. So the first one I'd like to just talk about is just the timeline and how it's different from Flash, and how in many ways, if you're familiar with After Effects, there's a lot of similarities there too. Pardon me. So the first thing I'd like to do is just pull up, this guy here was actually, I did not design him, but I did build him. He was actually part of a storyboard test that Toon Boom had sent out. And I'm just using him because I built him, and I'd like to just show some of the stuff that I did with him. But more importantly, how to look at the timeline and how to kind of cut through the confusing chaff, so to speak, and just get to what is important. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. So the first thing that is always important is to try and keep your timeline collapsed. And by collapsed, I mean everything kind of folded up into its proper groups and pegs. One of the most easiest things to do for that, hold on, I used to have a little presentation pointer. There he is, my little yellow guy popped up. It'll help. So one of the easy things to do, I would like to point out, is a button called Collapse All. And you can find that by right-clicking on top of your timeline and going to Customize. And inside of there is a bevy of options. And inside of here, you can just find Collapse Timeline and use the little arrow to kind of shoot him over to yours, to the toolbar side. So using that actually helps a lot, going from this craziness, to something a little more manageable, to only a handful of layers. And I recommend working that way as much as possible. Keeping things collapsed and simplified is always the best. So the next thing I could suggest is, in terms of just sifting through your layers, is if you have premium, they call it, you can use the network view, or the node view rather, to create what's called a right node. And we can go into insert, and we can go into effects, which of course is not an effect, but it is under the miscellaneous, I believe. Or display, it is not a right node, it is a display node. And just hook that up to your guy, and we can name him. I'm going to call him Dude. And as of right now, it does nothing. There's no apparent changes. That is, of course, you have to have it enabled. So if you once again go to your timeline, you'll see a little drop-down menu over here. And if you don't, go into your edit, go to your preferences. I believe it's under advanced. And there's a checkbox that says Advanced Display. I believe by default it is off. Turn it on, hit OK, and that little drop-down menu will be there. And once you'll find the display node called Dude, click it, and now my timeline will only show me what is being hooked up to that particular display. It's kind of cutting the chaff, so to speak. And I threw a bunch of miscellaneous things in here just to create clutter. I purposefully did that. I was randomly grabbing things from my desktop. And I can go back to regular display, and there it all is. So again, this is a quick way of just isolating what we're working on. I can unhide everything. This is just junk. Like I said, randomly grabbing stuff. A similar drop-down box is up here in our camera view called Dude. And if I do that, it will only show me what is hooked up to our display. Looks like I already had one in there called Harmony Guy. So they're both doing the same thing. If you go back to display, there's all the stuff. So this is handy if you're just trying to isolate a character and all you want to do is just focus on one character or one particular element, be it a background element, a prop, what have you. You can hook up multiple things to this display. I can pop in a composite node. And I'm just going to, whatever this is, this violin or fiddle, I'm going to hook the fiddle into that node here. And if I hit dude, there's my guy and just the fiddle. If you guys are following along. I don't believe that this is a more advanced way of showing your timeline and, of course, showing what's in the camera view. This is what is available in Premium. This is one of the perks of Premium. So I highly recommend getting used to that. It is very handy. Another thing I can recommend is color coding things. So let's just switch back to, let's get rid of all this junk. So I can just use my node. And let's get rid of that stuff. Goodbye. We can color code things in Harmony in the timeline, and that will also help us visually sift through things. If we just keep it all collapsed into one at its top group, this little box over here, if we next to it, if we tap it, we can give it any color we wish. Try and pick something that maybe, he's got that blue shirt on, I guess. So let's come in and go blue. I'm guessing right now. And now everything that's nested under it will all be blue, including the layers itself. Look, this guy goes forever, right? And if you want, you can take your time and just color code certain parts, like legs. I have a thing for making legs green. Generally speaking, the screen left arm, I like to make blue again. Screen right arm, I like to make red. Generally, the head and the body, I generally like to make them like a tannish. And I'll usually keep the top one, again, some color that looks, wherever the massive amount of color is. So he's kind of gray. Maybe not the best example, gray. But we can go a little gray maybe. Okay. Let's go back to the blue, just so you guys can see it. A very light blue. And now that we start doing it like this, we start color coding, we can suddenly start making sense of things way easier. So now we have the display node kicking in, we have color coding happening right here, and all of these things kind of come together to help us. At a glance, I can look down like, oh, there's his legs. I know where the keyframes are for his legs. And so it becomes way easier to just kind of see what you want. And if I turn the display node off, go back to display all, there's my guy right here. I can see that very light blue, I don't know, teal, turquoise. But he stands out very clearly against everything else. So that's just another way of doing it. So as you're animating, it becomes very, I don't think the playback will work. If I hit the playback on this, you probably won't get the speed, but turn the audio off. So if I want to find just parts of his body, one of the things we can do is using the transform tool. So say I wanted to just tweak this hand. If I keep it all collapsed the way I have it, it might be difficult to find that hand. One thing we can do to find the hand quickly is just to make sure our timeline is the active window, which is the little red box. As you see, the windows become active as I hover over top of them. So let's make sure our timeline is the active window. And if I hit A or O, I can see it jumped right to my hand, right on the same frame. So that's another quick way of just finding where a hand is, or if I want to skip to the ear, for example, select my ear, hover down to my timeline, hit O, and then there's my ear. It goes right to the ear. So this is handy for when I'm fine-tuning a piece and I want to see it in relation to whatever's around it. So if I want the ear to be matching whatever the hair is doing, or whatever's next to that, what is that? Like the temple, the hair temple. That's what I named that piece right here, I suppose. Hair temple. That's another way of quickly doing it, pushing O to quickly jump in your timeline to wherever it is that you're looking for. Collapse everything. Another way, and I think this will probably do it for now, is to get used to using these buttons down here in the corner. In the very bottom left-hand corner, is our view normal mode, selection only mode, and view tagged layers. It's what it sounds like. So if I switch my mode to selection only mode, when I select his hand, only the hand appears down in my timeline. I can select both hands, and both hands will be down in the timeline. Hitting escape deselects it. Now it's just the nose, and you can see it gives you a little bit of a tree too. It tells you the nose is nested in the head, which is nested inside of the group of the master guy. Again, shift and clicking will put more objects down there. So if we're trying to match the arms or the hand movement together, that's another way of making sure that we can see them together. Another way is called viewing tagged layers. And I'm just going to collapse this guy like nuts. Here's everything. And I'm going to kind of randomly pick some layers, I suppose. Let me think. Maybe the body. If I right click, there's an option called tag. So I'm going to hit timeline tag. And when you do that, a little asterisk appears. How about a shirt? I'm going to randomly kind of just pick some things because right now this is just an example. His face, sure. Tag. Let's get one more. Scroll down. Both of his brows. Timeline tag. And again, they have the little asterisk next to them. Collapse it all. If I switch my view mode to view tagged layers, you'll see that only the tagged layers will now show in my timeline. And we know this because there's a little red bar running down the side there. Take note that the layers should be in alphabetical order because it's breaking the hierarchy because there's no we're kind of this display mode is taking us out of our hierarchy. So everything's kind of listed in alphabetical order because I know for a fact, you know, the brow, you know, if you follow what I'm saying, that the brow is clearly not parented to the shirt. You know what I mean? Again, switching to selection only mode, just the hands appear, or the nose, or the foot, or the leg. Switch over quickly to view tagged layers, just my tag layers. I can easily add things to them. I'm not sure. Oh, look at that. I didn't think I knew this one. I think anything you so there's a little piece of hair. If I right click it, there's a little tag there. Did not know that. And now it added it to my tagged. So that's a nice way of doing it too, without having to sift through your timeline. So that pupil, I'm just going to grab that pupil. I'm going to right click, tag, and now the pupil is down there. Look at that. I just taught myself something new. And I think that's kind of also one of the things I'd like to encourage you is just as you use it, you learn new things every time you play with it. To get rid of this, you just right click all of your stuff. You can hit tag and untag all or others. There's a heavy bevy of options in here. And that gets rid of everything. So I think I'll about do it for this tutorial. I wanted to make it quick and only just show some of the ways of sifting through your timeline. I hope you found it helpful. I think maybe I'll try and do this maybe once a week or once every other week. Just talk about some of the common issues and obstacles that a Flash user may experience when they're coming over into Harmony for the first time. I know one more thing, you know, sometimes just getting used to the selection tool versus the transformation tool. They're two totally different things. They do two totally different operations. Whereas maybe from you're used to in Flash, they're kind of similar. They do a very similar thing. That's not the case here. So you have to learn how to use when to use one over the other. Well, thank you very much once again for joining me. I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye.